The woman his wife was trying to save, her long-lost love, looked down at his hands. Annalise, maybe we should just forget it, Viktor Krov murmured, his voice laced with a practiced melancholy. I don't want my illness to come between you two. It's better if I just fade away. Annalise Vance's brow tightened. Leukemia requires a bone marrow transplant. Victor, you know that. Her voice was clipped, efficient, the same tone she used to close billion-dollar deals. There are no matches for you in the registry. The only viable option is a biological match, a child. She softened her tone, a rare occurrence. Don't worry, I'll find a way to save you. But Victor's gaze flickered toward him, a carefully constructed look of apology on his handsome face. To ask you to go through IVF for me. What would Nikolai think? Nikolai, what are your thoughts? Annalise turned to him, her sharp blue eyes pinning him in place. She seemed to expect a specific answer. The scene was so familiar it made his head spin. He wasn't just having déjà vu, he was reborn. He knew because the last time this happened, his refusal to let his CEO wife have a child to save her first love got him locked in a mansion's panic room. He had severe claustrophobia. He begged her to let him out, but she was already gone, leaving for a fertility clinic in Europe. Her last words to him echoed in his memory. When you've realized your mistake and you're ready to stop being selfish, I'll let you out. It was a matter of pride, his pride. He wouldn't yield. But as she left, she abandoned their 4-year-old daughter Anya in the care of a new nanny and security team. The first day in that sealed box, he could faintly hear Anya's gut-wrenching sobs. She was screaming for her daddy. The thought of his little girl so small and alone broke him. He gave in. He pounded on the door, screaming that he agreed to anything, but it was too late. He learned later that they were never going to let him out. Ms. Vance is gone. A guard had sneered through the door. Mr. Krov wants us to give you some special attention, help you reflect a little deeper. The guards weren't Annalise's, they were Victor's. On the second day, he couldn't hear Anya crying anymore. Panic, real and suffocating, clawed his throat. He screamed her name until his voice was gone. The darkness pressed in. Without food or water, hallucinations began to warp the edges of his reality. On the third day, a shriek from somewhere in the house pierced the silence. The little brat's dead. What do we do? A rough voice answered. Keep your mouth shut. We can't let Miss Vance know. If she asks, we say Nikolai did it. We'll say we let him out because he was having a breakdown, and he killed his own daughter in a fit of rage. With Mr. Krov in her ear, she'll believe it. That's when he finally understood. It was all Victor's plot. His leukemia, a lie. His endgame, his destruction. He and Annalise, one with malice and the other with cold indifference, had murdered his daughter, his sweet Anya. The thought shattered the last of his sanity, and as his claustrophobia consumed him, he died with a heart full of hate. The memory was still a raw, open wound, but this time, he wouldn't let it happen. Nikolai, Annalise's voice, sharp with impatience, pulled him back. I'm talking to you. Do you agree to me having a child via IVF to help Julian? He snapped out of his trance, his eyes darting around the cavernous living room, searching. There, hiding between the posts of the grand staircase on the second floor, a tiny head peeked out. Anya. A wave of relief washed over him, so powerful it almost buckled his knees. She was safe. He turned back to Annalise, his expression carefully neutral. A baby is a big decision, he said, his voice eerily calm. It's your body. It's your call. I don't have an opinion. To his astonishment, his compliance didn't appease her. It made her furious. Nikolai. Annalise's face was a mask of cold fury. Your wife is proposing to have a child for another man. How can you have no opinion? What the hell? This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Last time, his opposition was the problem. Now his agreement was. Was she just looking for an excuse to lock him away again? A cold sweat prickled his skin. No, not again. He couldn't let her find a reason. You tell me what to do, he said, carefully choosing his words as if navigating a minefield. I'll support whatever you think is best. She stared at him, her eyes narrowed, searching his face for any hint of deception. He was lying through his teeth, of course, but he couldn't let her see it. He couldn't die again, not like that. The silence stretched, thick and heavy. Finally, she seemed to accept his answer, though her expression remained stormy. She turned to Victor. Victor, about the IVF. I can find a surrogate, she said coolly. Money isn't an issue. I'll cover everything. Then she glanced at him, a flicker of something unreadable in her eyes. Victor and I grew up together. I can't just stand by and watch him die. Victor's face clouded over for a split second before he rearranged it into a mask of profound gratitude. Thank you, Annalise, thank you. That's the best way. You won't have to suffer, and Nikolai won't be upset. As soon as I'm better, I swear I'll work my fingers to the bone to pay you back. Don't worry about it, Annalise said, waving a dismissive hand. Consider it my way of repaying you for saving my life all those years ago. He'd saved her life? That was news to him. And Annalise's attitude, it was completely different from last time. Was this all an act for his benefit? It had to be. No matter what, his plan remained the same. Get Anya and get the hell out of here. Anya's birthday is tomorrow, Annalise said, turning to him, her expression suddenly softening into something resembling hope. Let's take her to the amusement park, the three of us. He felt a jolt. Reborn Annalise was a different person. Last time, she barely acknowledged his existence, let alone her own daughter's. She would never change. Her heart belonged to Victor. What was this new performance for? Oh, Annie, a tiny, hesitant voice drifted down from the stairs. It was Anya. Are you really going to take me to the amusement park? A flash of pain crossed Annalise's face, but she forced a smile. Of course, sweetie. I'm your mother. Of course I'm going to spend your birthday with you. Mom. Anya whispered the word, her small lips trembling, her big eyes filled with tears, her face a canvas of pure disbelief. For years, Annalise had forbidden Anya from calling her mom. He knew how desperately his daughter longed to say that word. Annalise smiled and took a step forward, her arms open to embrace her. Annalise, don't. He moved instinctively, blocking her path, his body a shield in front of his daughter. Anya immediately clung to his leg, hiding behind him. Nikolai. Annalise's expression was a mixture of confusion and hurt. I just want to hug her. Hearing her call him by his name, not the cold, formal Nikolai Miller she usually used, sent a tremor through him. In his previous life, he never heard her say his name with such softness. If he hadn't died such a brutal death, he might have actually believed she meant it. Daddy. Anya looked up at him, her eyes wide with a fragile hope. Is what Annie said true? Anya, I'm your mother. Annalise cut in before he could answer, her voice strained. Why do you call me Annie? A laugh, a cold, bitter sound. Weren't you the one who made the rules, Annalise? I'm not to be called your husband in public, and Anya is not to be called your daughter. He remembered when Anya was just learning to talk, and the first word she'd uttered was a gleeful mama. Annalise's reaction. She'd had the nanny lock their daughter in a room until she cried herself into a dead faint. He'd come home just in time to find her. If he'd been any later, Anya would have died then and there. Miss Vance. Anya choked back her tears and suddenly dropped to her knees on the polished marble floor, a gesture so foreign and desperate it tore his heart out. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have called you Mom. I was wrong. Please don't punish me. Seeing her like that, his hatred for Annalise burned hotter than ever. What kind of monster terrifies her own child into such a state? She was Anya's mother, for God's sake. Annalise's face went white. Her lips moved, but no words came out. She reached for Anya again, but his daughter flinched away, pressing herself tighter against him. Annalise's hands froze in midair. She looked at him, her eyes pleading for help. He ignored her. He scooped Anya into his arms, holding her tight. It's okay, sweetie, he whispered. Daddy's here. You're safe. Anya buried her face in his shoulder, her small body trembling with silent sobs. She didn't dare make a sound, not in front of Annalise. Ms. Vance, he said, his voice flat and devoid of emotion. Thank you for remembering Anya's birthday, but you have that important project meeting tomorrow. We won't trouble you. I can push the meeting, she said, her voice desperate. A strange feeling washed over him. This Annalise truly was different. But it didn't matter. The years of cruelty and neglect couldn't be erased. The fact remained, she didn't love them. Daddy. Anya whispered, tugging on his shirt collar. Will she really come with us tomorrow? I will. Annalise jumped in before he could reply. No matter what, I will be there for my daughter's birthday. Looking at the flicker of genuine joy on Anya's face, he relented. Fine. We'd appreciate that, Ms. Vance. Anya's one wish was to have her mother with her just once. He couldn't deny her that. Annalise's tense shoulders finally relaxed. Her mood seemed to lift instantly. Nikolai, Anya, she said, her voice bright. I'm going to take Victor to the hospital now to get the surrogacy process started. I'll be back early, and we can have dinner together, okay? She leaned in and pressed a kiss to his forehead, and then to Anya's. His daughter went rigid, as if she couldn't believe it was happening. Okay, he replied, not resisting. He couldn't risk her sensing his plan to leave. Any change in her behavior could ruin everything. Annalise beamed, then took Victor's arm to lead him out. At the door, she seemed to remember something and quickly dropped his arm, creating a respectable distance between them. Let's go. My assistant has already contacted the surrogacy agency. As she left, she glanced back at them, a gentle smile on her face he had never seen before. Daddy. The moment Annalise's car was out of sight, Anya's demeanor changed. What's wrong with Miss Vance? He didn't answer. He had no idea what game Annalise was playing. Daddy, I don't want to live here anymore, Anya said, her little hands twisting the hem of her dress. I'm scared. Can we leave? Please? Can we go somewhere else? His heart stopped. Did she know? Did she somehow sense his plan? Anya, he said, his voice low and serious. Tell Daddy why you want to leave. I had a really bad dream, Daddy, she whispered, her voice trembling. I dreamed you were locked in a dark room, and I couldn't find you. And the man and lady wouldn't give me any food, and they hit me. Her eyes filled with tears. It hurts so much, Daddy. I was so hungry. I promise I won't cry anymore. I won't make them mad. A tremor ran through his body. He clamped his hand gently over her mouth. Anya, it was just a dream. A bad dream. He didn't realize he was shaking, that tears were streaming down his own face. Anya, she was reborn too. She was just too young to understand what had happened, mistaking the horrific memory for a nightmare. But it felt so real, she sobbed. It hurt so much. Can we? Yes, he interrupted, pulling her into a fierce hug. We're leaving right now. He carried her upstairs, and they started packing. They didn't have much. Everything fit into 2 suitcases. He grabbed their IDs, birth certificates, and the single bank card of his name. Everything else, all the empty trappings of this life, he threw into trash bags. Whatever game Annalise was playing, it didn't matter. They had to escape this hell. And one last thing. He grabbed the divorce papers she'd had her lawyer draft 5 years ago. She had made him sign them back then, telling him that if the day ever came when she wanted out, he was to accept it without question. It was finally proving useful. She was about to get exactly what she wanted. Mr. Miller, where are you going? The housekeeper, Lena, intercepted them as they headed for the door with their suitcases. Oh, Victor is staying the night for some preliminary checkups. He needs quiet, he lied smoothly. Anya and I are just going to crash at the old apartment for a night, so we don't disturb him. Hearing Victor's name, Lena nodded without suspicion. She shook her head and muttered under her breath. I don't know what the madam is thinking, ignoring a good man and a sweet little girl like you for that Mr. Croft. She turned and went back to the kitchen. He and Anya exchanged a quick glance, a silent sigh of relief. Stepping out of the grand gates, he looked back one last time at the house he had called home for 5 years. His mind flooded with memories. He'd met Annalise in a small jazz club downtown. He was singing there part-time just to keep his mind off her, off Alara. Annalise was always there, alone, a storm cloud of a woman in designer clothes, drinking high-end whiskey like it was water. She'd request song after song, but never seemed to listen, her eyes fixed on her glass. After a few nights of this, he went over to her table during his break. She looked up, and he was struck by the profound loneliness in her eyes. He apologized for intruding. Don't be, she'd said, a rare, stunning smile gracing her lips. Stay? Have a drink. They drank until closing, then she grabbed his hand, her grip surprisingly strong. Will you marry me? She'd asked, her voice a strange mix of command and desperation. I'll be good to you, I promise. Her boldness captivated him. The next day, they were at City Hall. A month later, she was pregnant. He quit his singing gig to be a stay-at-home dad. It was only after they were married that he found out the truth. She'd married him on a whim, in a fit of pique because her great love, Victor Krov, had posted on Facebook that he was getting married. He was just a pawn in her game. He'd suggest a divorce, but by then she knew she was pregnant with Anya. After their daughter was born, he never brought it up again until Victor came back to the States, divorced, and supposedly sick. She spent a month with him, not even coming home. That's when he demanded a divorce. Her response was to double down, to propose this insane IVF scheme. When he refused, she killed them. The memories were like shards of glass in his soul, but this time was different. This time, Anya and he were free. Goodbye, Annalise. I hope for your sake you're smart enough to leave us alone. He didn't call an Uber. He flagged down a yellow cab. You headed to Clay County, Ohio? He asked the driver. The cabbie chuckled. You kidding me, pal? That's like 1,000 miles away. I'm serious, he said, his voice steady. Name your price. He sized him and Anya up, then made a quick call to his wife to tell her he'd be gone for a while. All right, look, on the meter, it's going to be a fortune. How about a flat rate? Flat rate is good, he said, anxious to get moving. If Annalise came home and found them gone, she'd have the entire city locked down. Her possessiveness wouldn't allow them to just disappear. It's about $3,000 in gas and tolls, plus I gotta drive back empty. Call it 5,000. I'll give you 10, he said, pulling out his phone and showing him the Venmo transfer screen. But I need you to do one thing for me. He explained that he needed him to swap cars once they got near the airport. The driver's eyes narrowed with suspicion. Hey man, I ain't no kidnapper's taxi service. I'm not a kidnapper, he sighed. Anya, can you please explain to the nice man? Anya, bless her heart, turned on the charm. Mister, she said in her sweetest voice, this is my daddy. My mommy doesn't want us to go visit my grandma, so we're pretending to go on a trip. If we switch cars, she can't track us and she won't be mad. The driver still looked skeptical, so he pulled out his wallet and showed him his ID and Anya's birth certificate. Hey, your wife's name is Annalise Vance, he said, surprised. Same name as that big shot CEO of Vance Industries. He just smiled. All right, I got you, he said, his suspicion finally easing. My wife can meet us with our family car on a service road by the airport. Hop in, kiddo, let's hit the road. BZZZT. His phone vibrated. A new iMessage. It was Annalise. Audio message. Nikolai, I'm all done here. I'm on my way home. He didn't block her. He simply logged out of his Apple ID, powered down his phone, and popped out the SIM card. He held it between his fingers for a second before flicking it out the window. Goodbye, New York City. Just as promised, they pulled onto a quiet, unmonitored service road near LaGuardia. A black sedan was waiting, its flashers blinking. After a quick switch, they were on their way west to Clay County, Ohio. The scenery changed from concrete towers to rolling green hills, and Anya watched, mesmerized, out the window. After a grueling 24 hours on the road, they arrived. He bought a beat-up pickup truck for a few $100s and drove them the last few miles to his old family home. Seeing the small, weathered farmhouse, clean and tidy despite being empty for years, brought a lump to his throat. After his parents passed, he'd left for the city, assuming the place would fall into ruin. Someone had been taking care of it. The old neighbors greeted him with warm smiles and open arms, their kindness a balm on his wounded soul. They all gushed over how polite and sweet Anya was. He wasn't worried about Annalise finding them. She never knew this place existed. But just in case, he went to the county courthouse. He filed to have her legal record sealed and applied for a name change for both of them. He was going to erase Nikolai and Anya Miller from the face of the earth. 10 days later, it was official. He was now Andre Volk, a simple, strong name. For Anya, he chose Kira. Kira Volk. A star, a new light for their new life. A month later, they were settled in the renovated farmhouse. He dropped Kira at the local preschool, then spent his days writing code for freelance projects and tending to the small vegetable garden he planted. Life was quiet, peaceful. Then one afternoon, while he was out in the garden, an unexpected visitor arrived. Andre, your old lady's here. His childhood friend, Sergey, came running out to the garden, out of breath and frantic. My wife? My blood ran cold. Annalise. She found us. Forgetting the half-watered tomatoes, he sprinted past a bewildered Sergey, his heart pounding against his ribs. He ran straight to the preschool. He saw Kira through the window, playing with other kids, and the knot in his chest loosened. She was safe. When school let out, he grabbed her hand, intending to pack up and run again, but it was too late. Sergey brought the visitor right to the school's gate. When he saw who it was, he froze. The words caught in his throat. Man, Andre, what's with you? Sergey grumbled. You run like a bat out of hell. Your wife's been waiting for ages. He ignored him, his gaze fixed on her. How'd she find this place? Are you okay? She asked, a gentle smile playing on her lips, the same smile that could light up a room. The joy of seeing him again was written all over her beautiful face. Dude, what is your problem? Sergei elbowed him, lowering his voice. This wife of yours, man, she's not just gorgeous, she's a saint. For the past few years, she's the one who's been cleaning up your parents' place. Every time she comes, she brings gifts to the whole town. He nudged him again. You really made it, buddy. See that new paved road? She said you paid for it. The new wing on the elementary school? Your donation, she said. Sergei's words hit him like a physical blow. He stared at the woman in front of him. You did all that? His voice was hoarse. Well, you weren't here to do it, she said, her smile as warm as the summer sun. So I just came by to check on things once in a while. I never thought I'd actually find you here. It was her. Alara Petrova, his college girlfriend, his first love. Daddy, is this pretty lady? Kira asked, breaking the spell. Aye. He cleared his throat, embarrassed. Kira, this is Alara Petrova. She's an old friend of Daddy's. You can call her Miss Alara. He and Alara were inseparable in college. They had a plan. Stay in New York after graduation, work their asses off, save up for a down payment, and get married. Then one day, she just vanished. He searched for her everywhere. He was about to file a missing persons report when two men in expensive suits showed up. They were sent by her parents. They gave him a check for $5 million and told him to stay away from their daughter. He refused the money, but they were relentless. They used their power and influence to make his life a living hell. That's when he learned the truth. Alara was the heiress to a vast fortune, a blue blood from an old East Coast family. She was being recalled to be married off in a strategic alliance. He was just a boy from a poor town in Ohio. He never stood a chance. Heartbroken, he started singing in that smoky jazz club, trying to numb the pain. The day after Annalise and he drunkenly got married, he saw a headline in the Wall Street Journal. The high-profile merger and the marriage that would have sealed it had been called off. The bride, it was rumored, had refused. After that, he never heard another word about Alara Petrova. To think that all these years, she was the one taking care of his family's home. Why don't you come back to the house for dinner? The words felt clumsy and strange coming out of his mouth. Back to the house. Alara's voice broke. She closed the distance between them in a few quick steps and threw her arms around him, sobbing with joy. My hero, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. I've been waiting to hear you say that for 5 years. My hero, an old, familiar nickname from a life he thought was gone forever. Alara came inside. Seeing the old farmhouse patched up and lived in, a genuine, radiant smile spread across her face. It was different from the gentle, wistful smiles he'd seen before. This one was pure happiness. My hero, Alara said, holding Kira's hand as she watched him cook. I was afraid you'd never come back, so I didn't dare change anything major about the house. My hero was her name for him in college. She'd said he had to be like a superhero, protecting their love from all the villains in the world. If anything stood in their way, he was supposed to smash it. You shouldn't have, he said with a small smile, but thank you. If you hadn't been taking care of it, this place would have crumbled to dust by now. The meal was simple, but the air was thick with unspoken words. Alara kept looking at him, wanting to say something. You have a question? He finally asked gently. Aye. She looked nervous. I waited for you all this time. His heart tightened. He didn't reply. The truth was, he'd seen her once after he moved in with Annalise. It was the day they confirmed the pregnancy. He saw Alara across the street from the townhouse. She was about to call out to him, but he couldn't bear it. He couldn't forgive her for disappearing, and he couldn't handle the chasm between her world and his. So he put on a show. He'd ostentatiously put his hand on Annalise's stomach, playing the part of the doting husband Tope. He watched the hope in Alara's eyes die, replaced by a look of utter despair. For months after that, she would come and stand near the house, just staring for hours at a time. After Kira was born, she stopped coming. He thought she'd finally moved on. And now, here she was, telling him she was still waiting. But so much had changed. He was damaged goods, more broken than she could ever know. Aye. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Daddy, Kira's cheerful voice cut through the tension. Miss Alara loves you very, very much. The fork in his hand paused midair. He glanced at Alara. Her face was bright red. She quickly put a piece of chicken on Kira's plate. Sweetie, I love you too. Eat up, okay? Okay. Kira nodded enthusiastically. You should try harder, Miss Alara. He chuckled. Kids say the darndest things, don't mind her. Alara's blush deepened. She nibbled her lip, silent for a long moment. When she finally spoke, it was with a resolve that seemed to take all her courage. Andre, I've been keeping tabs on you all these years. When you were happy, I was happy for you. When you were hurting, I felt it too. Her words sent a shiver through him. He could feel the depth of her affection, but it terrified him. He was terrified of what Annalise could do to her, to Kira, if she ever found them. The rest of the dinner was much more relaxed, thanks to his little girl acting as a social lubricant. The bond between Alara and him began to tentatively reform. Andre, can I stay here for a while? She asked after they finished eating. He hesitated, but only for a second. He agreed. The following days were a dream. With no news from New York, the knot of anxiety in his chest began to unwind. Alara slipped into their lives as if she'd always been there. She'd pick Kira up from preschool, help him in the garden, do laundry, cook. It didn't matter if she was some East Coast heiress. Here, she was just Alara. The whole town was already convinced they were married, praising him for finding such a beautiful, kind, and hard-working wife. Slowly, he began to let his guard down. He started to accept her affection, and Kira was happier than he had ever seen her. She called Alara Mommy Alara, without a hint of fear, and was constantly encouraging her to be more forward with him. But the good days weren't meant to last. After 2 blissful months, Alara got a call. A family emergency. She had to go back east to handle it personally. 2 days after she left, a convoy of black SUVs rolled into town. Annalise. The sight of her sent an icy chill through his entire body. How would she find this place? And what did she want? Nikolai. Her eyes were red-rimmed and filled with tears. She took a hesitant step toward him. Why would you leave me without a word? I missed you and Anya so much. 3 months. That's how long it had been. She looked haggard, a ghost of the polished, powerful CEO who ruled New York. Her tailored suit was wrinkled, and he could see a startling streak of silver in her dark hair. Her assistant, Ashley, and a team of bodyguards stood behind her, looking utterly exhausted. His mouth was dry. He couldn't speak. Nikolai. She came closer, reaching for his hand. Are you still angry with me? As she said it, her face was a portrait of guilt and profound regret. Ms. Vance, I'm not angry with you, he said, his voice flat. Annalise just felt that her presence and Anya's was getting in the way of his relationship with Victor. She stammered, trying to explain. I was just trying to repay a debt. It's not what you think. He hesitated. I just felt that my presence and Anya's was getting in the way of your relationship with Victor. She stammered, trying to explain. I was just trying to repay a debt. It's not what you think. He hesitated. I see, he said quietly. The word struck her like a slap. She staggered back, her face draining of all color. Ashley rushed forward to catch her before she fell. Mr. Miller, the assistant snapped, her voice sharp with accusation. Do you have any idea what Ms. Vance has been through these past few months? Ashley, don't. Annalise shook her head, trying to silence her. No, I have to say it. For the first time, Ashley defied a direct order. She turned her glare on him. You just disappeared with Anya, and Ms. Vance nearly lost her mind. She turned New York upside down looking for you. She hired investigators to search the entire country. Have you seen her? She hasn't slept, she barely eats. Her hair is turning gray from stress, and you're just, what? Chilling out here in the countryside. He had expected her to search for him, but only to satisfy her twisted need for control. He never imagined this. This fear, this desperation. It wasn't the reaction of an angry tyrant. It was the reaction of someone terrified of loss. So, he shot back, his voice dripping with ice. We were married for 5 years, and you never even bothered to learn where I was from. His question silenced her. Nikolai. Annalise stepped forward again, tears streaming down her face. I know I was wrong. I was so wrong. I never tried to understand you. I was terrible to Anya. I'll change. I swear I'll do anything. Please just don't leave me. Please come home. He looked at her, this broken, pleading woman, and a strange feeling stirred within him. But then he remembered his daughter's screams, the suffocating darkness, and the cold reality of what she had done. She had killed them. For that, there was no forgiveness. But he couldn't risk provoking her, not with her security team watching. Annalise, he said, his voice empty of all warmth. Did you ever love me? She nodded frantically, her voice desperate. Of course I love you, Nikolai. You're my husband. Who else would I love? He let out a short, harsh laugh. The divorce papers are final. We're not married anymore. Please, have some self-respect. You? Her whole body trembled. Can you at least tell me why? Why did you want the divorce? Was it really because of Victor? He didn't want to explain, but he knew if he didn't, she would never leave them in peace. He needed to draw a line once and for all. He led her inside the small farmhouse. Annalise, he poured her a glass of water, his hands steady. There are some things you need to understand. They sat at the simple wooden table. I know you always had someone else in your heart. I thought if I just tried hard enough, I could eventually win you over. It wasn't until Victor came back that I realized you can't earn love like a promotion. It doesn't matter if it's 3 years, 5 years, or 100, it's all the same. He looked her straight in the eye. The way you look at someone you love, it's obvious, isn't it? Tears welled in her eyes as she shook her head helplessly. Nikolai, it's not like that. I admit, she sobbed. At first I was just using you to get back at Victor, but over these 5 years, I fell in love with you. He sighed. The words were there, but they felt hollow. That wasn't love, Annalise. You just got used to me. Used to me taking care of you. Used to me giving you everything. Used to having a dog you could control. His words were blunt, but not overtly aggressive. He was still keenly aware of the man waiting outside. No, that's not it, she protested desperately. I know you left because of Victor, didn't you? You were jealous, I understand. Look, I've already cut all ties with him, I swear. Can we please just go home now? He was genuinely surprised. She'd cut ties with Victor? The Annalise from his past life would have sooner cut off her own arm. How many times do I have to say it? He said, his voice rising with frustration. The problem between us was never Victor. It was you. You don't love me, and you don't love our daughter. So why aren't you happy that we're divorced? This is what you always wanted. Her face went chalk white. The tears flowed freely now, her voice a choked whisper. It's not. The moment I saw those signed divorce papers, my world fell apart. Every day has been agony. When we first got married, I was too proud. I was harsh with you, arrogant. I thought that was how I could get your attention. And when Anya was born, I was a mother for the first time. I didn't know how to love her. I was scared, so I ran away from it. She took a shuddering breath. But I never meant for it to be like this. I regret it so much. I regret hurting you and Anya. Nikolai, please forgive me. Please take Anya and come home. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you. Her confession plunged him into a state of deep confusion. It was a bizarre, unsettling thought, but it almost felt like Annalise had been reborn too. But how? She hadn't died, and even if she had, her devotion to Victor was absolute. She would never have cut him off. Annalise, we are divorced, he said, his voice firm. You don't love me. That is a fact. Can we please just let each other go? Anya is happy here. As her mother, can't you just want that for her? For her to have a happy childhood. She wiped at her tears frantically. Nikolai, if you and Anya are happy here, then I'll stay here too. We could be a family, all together. Just don't leave me alone again, please. I'm so scared of losing you and Anya. He didn't understand this new Annalise, but one thing was certain, the old Annalise, the one who didn't love them, was the truth. That reality couldn't be changed. Annalise, Anya and I are happier without you. Do you understand? He finally said it, the words hanging in the air between them like a death sentence. The last bit of strength seemed to drain from her body. She crumpled, sliding from her chair to the floor in a heap. Just then, Ashley's frantic shout came from outside. Julian, what are you doing? Let go of the girl. Let her go. His blood froze. Anya. He burst out of the house into the yard and saw it. Victor Krov, his face a twisted mask of rage, was holding a fruit knife to Kira's throat. His daughter was still wearing her little backpack from school. Victor, what the hell do you think you're doing? He yelled, his voice shaking. Let her go. This is between you and me. Annalise scrambled to her feet and staggered out, placing herself in front of him. Victor, it was me who cut you off. If you have a problem, take it up with me. He was stunned. The woman who had always treated them with disdain was now shielding them with her own body. Annalise, Victor's face contorted with rage and hatred for this pathetic loser and his little brat. You ruined me. You had my assets frozen, my reputation destroyed. Fine. I'll let you feel what real despair is like all over again. He raised the knife high, aiming for Kira's small chest. His mind went blank. Instinct took over, and he launched himself forward, a desperate, useless missile. He was too far away. The knife was already falling. A primal scream of pure agony tore from his throat. No. He came back to life to protect her, to give them a real life. Why was this happening again? Stop. A sharp, commanding voice cut through the chaos. Victor froze, the knife hovering inches from Kira. He turned his head. See. It was Alara Petrova. She stood at the edge of the yard, flanked by her own team of serious-looking bodyguards. Her beautiful face was etched with a chilling fury. You touch one hair on that child's head, Victor, she said, her voice lethally calm, and I swear I will make you pray for a death that will never come. Victor's face went pale. He knew he hated him, but he never understood why he would be so terrified of Alara. He suddenly began to laugh, a crazed, unhinged sound. Alara, to think that you, a princess of the East Coast elite, would lower yourself to defend this piece of trash, he sneered. Fine. You wanted to let the brat go? You and Annalise. Both of you spend a night with me. Then maybe I'll consider it. He was completely insane. Done, Alara and Annalise said in unison. His face was grim. His hands clenched in a fist so tight his knuckles were white. Were they serious? Or was this just a ploy to save Kira? In that moment, he had never hated his own powerlessness more. Victor, Alara said, her voice dangerously smooth. You chased me for years, didn't you? You wanted me to marry you. Let Kira go, and I'll be your wife. You're lying. Victor shook his head wildly. You never wanted to marry me. You've only ever loved him. Nikolai, you never gave me the time of day. Why would you marry me now? So he wasn't a complete idiot. He glanced at Annalise. He wondered how she felt, learning that her precious, white moonlight had been obsessed with Alara all along. Victor, Alara's voice dropped, turning to ice. Let her go before I change my mind. You know what I'm capable of. Fear flickered across Victor's face again. He looked at him, his expression one of utter defeat. Nikolai Miller, you win again. But I won't accept it. If I'm going down, I'm taking you with me. He raised the knife again, plunging it down toward his daughter's heart. His world narrowed to that single point of flashing steel. He lunged, a desperate, hopeless prayer on his lips, but a shadow blurred past him, moving with impossible speed. Whack! Before anyone could process what was happening, there was a sickening crunch of body hitting body, a grunt of pain, and a furious curse followed. Annalise, are you insane? The shadow? It was Annalise. How could she have moved that fast? In the same instant, another figure, Alara, shot forward, delivering a brutal kick to Victor's groin and snatching Kira away from him. Kira, are you okay? He finally reached them, his hands frantically checking her for injuries. She had a few scratches on her arms, but otherwise she was unharmed. I'm okay, Daddy, she said, her voice remarkably calm. She hadn't cried once. Annalise's bodyguards swarmed the now writhing Victor, pinning him to the ground. Suddenly, Ashley screamed, Ms. Vance. Oh my God, you're bleeding. Someone call an ambulance. He looked over. Annalise was on her knees, struggling. Nikolai, she gasped, her voice weak. Is Anya okay? He nodded numbly. A look of profound relief washed over Annalise's face, and then her expression went slack, her skin turning a ghastly white. That's when he saw it. The fruit knife was embedded deep in her side, just above her hip. Blood was pulsing from the wound, staining her expensive suit a dark crimson. You're hurt, he managed to say, the words feeling foreign in his mouth. She had saved Kira. She had taken the knife for their daughter. Nikolai, she panted, forcing the words out. I was wrong. Can you and Anya forgive me? Let's get you to a hospital, he said, avoiding the question. Kira just looked at Annalise with a complicated, unreadable expression. He saw the light in Annalise's eyes dim with disappointment. She coughed, a spray of blood speckling her lips, and then her eyes rolled back and she collapsed. Ashley and the guards scrambled, carrying her to one of the SUVs and speeding off toward the nearest town. Oh, Kira, you scared me to death, Alara whispered, Her voice choked with emotion as she hugged his daughter tightly. "It's okay, Mommy Alara," Kira said, patting her cheek gently. "I'm okay." Seeing his daughter so resilient, the terror that had gripped his heart finally began to subside. "Nikolai," Victor gasped from the ground where he was being held. I never meant to hurt your daughter. Didn't mean to hurt her. He kidnapped her, held a knife to her throat, and tried to kill her." He was pathetic, trying to make excuses now that he knew he was finished. "Believe me or not," he wheezed, a bloody smile on his face. "Whatever a scumbag I am, I wouldn't kill a child. I made mistakes, terrible mistakes I can never repay. I came here to atone." His voice grew fainter. "I just wasn't ready to accept that even if I got a second chance, the ending would still be the same. I still lost." He looked at him, his eyes filled with a strange mix of regret and madness. "In our last life, I only meant for you to be punished, not for you to die." A gurgling sound came from his throat. "Nikolai, Anya, I'm sorry." His head lolled to the side. A trickle of black blood oozed from the corner of his mouth. Viktor Krov was dead. "He got off easy," Alara said, her face a cold, hard mask. Then she turned, her expression softening as she scooped Kira into her arms. "Kira, honey, let's get you to the clinic for a checkup, okay?" "Okay." Kira nodded, then added, "Daddy has to come too. A family should stick together." A blush crept up Alara's neck as she looked at him, her eyes full of hope. He smiled, stepped forward, and took Kira from her arms. Alara naturally looped her arm through his. "Are you all right?" she asked softly. He shook his head. "How did you know to come back?" Alara looked away, hesitating. "I went back east to find Victor," she finally admitted. "But he'd already disappeared. I had a feeling, a terrible feeling he would follow Annalise here. I came back as fast as I could. I'm just sorry I wasn't faster." "Why were you looking for him?" he asked. "To make him disappear," she said, and the venom in her voice was startling. He didn't press further. They drove to the town clinic. The doctor gave Kira a clean bill of health. They even spoke to the town's only therapist, who confirmed that Kira seemed remarkably resilient and wasn't showing signs of trauma. Maybe, he thought, when you've already died once, you're not afraid of it anymore. As they were leaving, he overheard two nurses talking. "Did you hear that woman who came in with the stab wound? They transferred her to the city hospital." "Yeah, I heard. The facility's here. If they didn't transfer her, she probably wouldn't have." The rest of the sentence went unsaid, but they all knew what it meant. Without better care, Annalise would die. They went home. The yard was crawling with police. A white sheet covered Victor's body. He gave his statement, telling them everything that had happened. "You know, I think I saw that man," Kira's preschool teacher, who had come over to check on her, suddenly said. "He's been around the last few days, playing with Kira during recess. I thought he was a friend of yours since Kira seemed to know him." A chill went down his spine. Victor had been here for days, and Kira never told him. The man who murdered them in their past life had been near his daughter, and he had no idea. "Daddy," Kira tugged on his sleeve, whispering. "He told me he was sorry for what he did to us last time, and that he wanted to make up for it this time. He asked me to help him with a play. He said after he died, I should burn a letter and tell him if Miss Vance and Mommy Alara were sad. He didn't know if they were sad, but he knew he hated Viktor Krov with every fiber of his being. Death was too good for him." "Andre," Alara said, taking his hand, her voice was quiet. "In our last life, after you were gone, Annalise and I cut the flesh from Victor's bones, piece by piece." Her words stunned him into silence. "You know about the last life, too?" He stared at her, his mind reeling. I came looking for you," she said, her expression pained. She then filled in the missing pieces. After she learned of his death and Anya's, Annalise had gone on a rampage. She had found Victor and tortured him. Alara had found them, and together they had enacted a gruesome revenge before taking their own lives. So they were all reborn. Not just him and Anya. Annalise, Alara, Victor, all of them. That explained everything. Annalise's sudden remorse, Victor's talk of atonement mixed with his lingering madness, and Alara finding him at the first possible opportunity. No matter what, he wouldn't make the same mistakes again. He knew Alara loved him, but the wounds from his past life were still too raw. A month later, Alara had her company's board appoint a new CEO and moved to Ohio to live with him. She was a natural mother to Kira and a patient, loving partner to him. Slowly, he began to heal. They heard that Annalise had survived the surgery, but the knife had damaged her uterus. She could never have children again. Time passed. 6 months later, a recovered Annalise started visiting. She drove all the way from New York just to spend a weekend with them. Seeing Alara there, she never caused a scene. She just focused on Kira, showering her with affection and gifts, trying in her own clumsy way to be a mother. Kira was happy, so he didn't stop her. He asked Kira once why she was so nice to the woman who had hurt her daddy. She said wisely, I haven't forgiven her, but Mommy Alara says everyone deserves a chance to make things right, so I'm giving her a chance. And she grinned. Besides, Daddy, when are you and Mommy Alara going to give me a baby brother? Alara and he just smiled at each other. Annalise owed them a debt she could never repay, but he owed Alara everything. A few months after that, Alara and he got married in the backyard of the old farmhouse. She was pregnant, her belly just starting to show. Annalise was her maid of honor, and Kira was their flower girl. To his surprise, Alara's parents came, bearing not threats but blessings and an extravagant dowry. 3 months later, their son was born. Annalise moved in with them to help take care of Alara, Kira, and the baby. He didn't object. He had to go to New York to oversee the merger of their two family empires, a task Alara's parents had entrusted to him. He had seen Annalise's genuine remorse and her sincere love for Alara and the kids. He could trust her to care for his family, but that didn't mean he could forgive her. Another year passed. Kira started elementary school, and their son was learning to talk. Annalise, against her parents' wishes, gifted her entire stake in Vance Industries to Kira, with him as the trustee. She said she was never leaving, that she would spend the rest of her life with her sister, Alara. 18 years later, Kira was a grown woman, marrying a wonderful, hard-working young man she'd met in college. He was from a small town, much like him. Alara, Annalise, and he couldn't have been happier for her. Her younger brother, now a college student himself, cried his eyes out at the wedding. Another year, and Kira had a child of her own, a beautiful baby girl. They were grandparents. They were getting old. He stepped down as CEO of both companies, handing the reins to Kira and her husband. Their son had no interest in the corporate world. He was a free spirit, traveling the globe. He'd somehow managed to fall in love with and marry the only daughter of a tech billionaire, so they never had to worry about him. Time sped up. They were approaching 60. Annalise's old wound, combined with the stress of her past life, had taken its toll. Her health declined rapidly. She was the first of them to go. She died peacefully in her sleep while sorting through her things. Alara and he found her journals. Page after page was filled with her elegant script. She wrote of her guilt, of the moment she found out Anya and he were dead, and finally understood the depth of her love for them. She claimed she only ever wanted to help Victor, never imagining her actions would lead to their deaths. It was that realization that fueled her brutal revenge. She wrote about her life with them, the sadness and envy she sometimes felt, but mostly the overwhelming happiness of being part of their family. On the last page, she'd written, Nikolai, I failed you in our last life. It's a debt I know I can never repay in this one. Thank you for giving me the chance to be near you and Kira, to watch our children grow up. It was more happiness than I ever deserved. Kira, my sweet girl, I'm so sorry. Mama was wrong. Can you ever forgive me? At the funeral, their whole family was there. Kira placed a single white lily on the casket. I forgive you, Mom, she whispered. He said nothing. He took Alara's hand, and they turned to leave. They had a world to see. In this life, he would never forgive Annalise Vance, but he would let her rest in peace.